Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Fresh Set. I'm Sabrina,
And I'm Kevin.
and it was the Brazil Grand Prix.
Boy, was it.
I am tired. I mean, I don't
Well,
know if I can complain that we're tired. The drivers are.
well, I mean, we still have to get up at 5:30.
This is true.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, the qualifying was at 5:30 today because everything was.
Yes.
I mean, if the rain just was, the weather wasn't cooperating, and it just effed up the whole weekend.
The entire weekend.
Yeah, like there was not, and it's not like they had 4 fast sessions going on this weekend.
No,
No, not at
just
all.
just casual
Yeah.
racing. Yeah, it was a race. And if anybody missed this race, I apologize because it was a good one. You had
Don't apologize for them. They
well,
missed it. It's their fault.
true, true.
They missed one of the
Uh,
best races of the year.
yeah, and it had everything. It had crashes, red flags after red flags, safety cars, multiple safety
Yeah.
cars. The whole weekend really had all of
Multiple
this.
views where you couldn't actually see what was going on track. All you
Yeah,
saw was a couple of flashing red lights, and all of a sudden,
yeah.
somebody's on somebody's ass.
Well, and like you just see the cloud, it looks like cloud or mist, and then all of a sudden you have no idea if a car is going to come through
Yeah.
or who is going to come through.
Or if you're chasing somebody, like, are
Right.
they doing the right things? Are they locking up? Are they
Yeah.
going, are they have they spun out in a spot?
Yeah. It just all around mess.
Great conditions to be
Uh
going at 200 kilometers or miles an hour.
yeah. And I mean, just a really good race, and which we'll get into the race, but I think we kind of have to start back on Friday because this was a sprint weekend.
Yeah.
So like Kevin said, there was four races or four
Fast sessions.
events
Yeah.
that needed
Yeah.
to happen this weekend. And so we only had FP1, which wasn't looking so great for some people in FP1. Uh, Max, number one, was the one that wasn't looking so good.
Yeah.
But a
The
good,
Ferraris look good.
the Ferraris looked great in
Yeah.
FP1. And so did Ollie Bierman and Yuki Tsunoda
Yeah.
and George Russell. They were, I mean, it was Norris, George, and
Behrman,
Bierman. And
Piastri, Albon were the
yeah,
top five.
in FP1. So again, that's usually practice just trying to get a feel of the car, the feel of the track, which everybody hated, by the way. Uh
Yeah, they
so
resurfaced this track and it was finished a week before. I think was it the week before or 2 weeks
yeah, I
before they
think
had
so.
gotten there. So it's supposed to be a brand new tarmac. There wasn't any other racing done on this, so there was
No.
no racing line. There was no, you know, rubber put down on this road to
Yeah.
help with grip. And it was worse than it was before.
Yeah.
Everybody complained about how bumpy it was
More bumps.
last year.
Yeah.
And this year, there were like everybody. Well, I mean, the two oldest people on the grid complained their backs were hurting them. I'm sure everybody else was feeling it,
Oh gosh, yeah.
but they were in pain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they made it known. And we'll kind of talk about
Well, actually, yeah.
the comments.
In FP1, Lewis says like, "How many more laps of this do I have? Because my
Yeah.
back's really killing me."
Yeah, he was struggling, and then Alonso was struggling today
At
in
the
the
end of
race.
today, yeah. So
Yeah.
he was with, was it 10 laps left, something like that, 5 laps left. He said,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna finish this for my mechanics because they worked really hard.
Yeah.
Because, well, we'll talk about why.
Yeah.
But he was just like, he was done. Because I
I'm in a
can't do this.
lot of pain.
Yeah. And you
It's
could
been a
hear it.
Oh god,
You
yeah.
could hear it.
Yeah. Um, so FP1, again, didn't wasn't a really good showing for Max and the Red Bulls, but I mean, usually we don't have to worry about FP1. It's kind of, that they're fast, cool.
Yeah.
FP2, we're seeing who picks it up, and then FP3, we're kind of seeing where quali may land us.
And then there was none of that.
But there was none of that.
No.
There was just FP1 and right into
3 hours later.
sprint
Yeah.
qualifying. And this is where everything goes downhill.
Yeah,
Really.
for the
It
weekend. Yeah.
yeah. The weekend just gets ruined from the sprint qualifying, and ruined for different teams, ruined for strategies. Uh, but yeah, I mean, to start it off, we have, oh, this is sprint quali. What am I talking about? I was gonna
Sprint
go right
quali,
into the
yes.
rate.
No, sprint quali. We did
Yeah.
have a little bit of
Yeah.
drama-ish in sprint quali.
Yes. In sprint quali, we had a couple early departures.
Yes, no, not early departures, not in SQ1. In SQ1, you had the kind of the usual suspects. You had Alonso, Ocon, Tsunoda, Stroll, and Zhao out
Yeah.
in SQ1. Excuse me. I don't know which quality it was, if it was SQ1 or SQ2, but we did have almost a little bit of a coming together from our bestest of friends on track. Lawson and Perez.
Perez.
So Lawson's coming in on a fast lap, I believe it was.
Yeah.
Um, and Perez he's not really out of the way. He's kind of in the middle of the track, but he's not
Yeah.
on the racing line. It's
Right.
close.
Yeah.
It is
It's
too close for
very
comfort when you're coming
yeah.
out around a fast lap. And he's going and Perez is going pretty much at a snail's pace.
Yeah.
Uh, and Lawson very irately says, "Who is that in the Red Bull?"
Which Red Bull is
Yeah,
that?
yeah,
Checo or Max?
yeah. Which his pit wall was very quick. I'm like, don't worry, just keep
Yeah.
going. Just,
Keep going. They
one, don't get a
know.
fine, and two, we'll talk about it later.
Yeah. And I mean, I think if he knew it was Checo, but he was just like, before I scream about
Yeah.
Max, and I get Joss and Max Verstappen coming
Oh yeah, and
after
then I
me.
lose my seat next year.
Yeah. Let me
Possibly.
just be careful.
Yeah.
But it was funny how quickly his radio or his team did respond and say, "Don't worry about it, just keep going, keep like continue
Yeah.
your lap." And then we never heard if he actually ended
We
up
didn't hear
telling him.
anything. They won't show anything. Like, no.
And yeah, so it was
But
pretty funny though.
we did have Perez and Hamilton out, which is
Yes.
odd. Obviously, especially because Hamilton's so good around this track. But I don't know. I guess he just wasn't feeling it
No.
well, he was feeling it, but he wasn't happy with the track.
Yeah.
We did have Colapinto that made it into SQ3, and that lap
Yes.
time was deleted.
Yeah.
Poor guy. And it wasn't by much.
No.
So he was out as well, which was a shame. But
Yeah.
that
And
means
he had a bit of a rough weekend.
He-
His grandfather passed away Thursday. And then he had to come in. He had to come into work. And just didn't have a great weekend.
But that means Behrman gets into SQ1 in a Haas.
SQ3.
SQ3, excuse me. Which at one point he did post the fastest time, I believe.
Yeah.
Of course, that was like at the beginning of the session, one of the sessions.
The first guy out.
yeah, basically.
First one out on track.
No, I think it was actually an SQ3 because he actually went faster than George. No, he didn't go faster than George. George came out after, but he had gone through faster in their first runs or something like that.
Yeah. And he was faster than Nico.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he was putting up some good times. And I mean, we didn't even say the reason Bierman was driving this weekend.
Yeah.
He's just there all the time now. So
we took it for granted because everything else happened this weekend.
Yeah. So Oliver Bierman had to step in for Kevin Magnussen, who was unexpectedly sick this weekend. He was supposed to be able to drive for quali,
He was
regular qualifying,
yeah,
in the regular race.
Yeah, so it was just expected that Behrman would do sprint quali and sprint because he posted the time for sprint quali,
Right?
And that they would just hop in. But
And
him getting the call at 6:30 in the morning that day,
yeah,
and having to hop into a car.
Yeah, and then it quickly changed that Kevin couldn't do the entire weekend. So
Yeah.
Not sure what happened with him, but I mean, he posted he didn't feel well and all that. So
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he was putting up great times. And then we get the deciding pole sitter for the sprint, which is a McLaren front row.
Yeah.
With Piastri in front and Charles right behind him, right
Yes.
behind Lando. So yeah,
Right behind Piastri.
right behind
Max
Piastri. Yes,
Max behind Lando.
yeah, which would be
Yeah, in
terrifying.
P4. Yeah.
Which would be terrifying.
Yeah.
And going into the weekend, Max also had a penalty that he was going to be serving for the race, right?
He had a 5-second time penalty for no, he had a 5-place grid penalty for the race.
Yes.
The official, yeah, the race.
Yeah, but it wasn't for sprint. So he qualified 4th, so that's where he was going to stay.
Yeah.
There. And was that it for quali?
That was basically it for quali.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sprint quali.
Yeah. And the idea was the whole question was, are there going to be team orders if Piastri's ahead, especially because he's starting in P1. I'm sure the question was, why did he? I mean, it's so close in qualifying. I'm sure Lando wasn't happy that he took, because Lando was in first until he did cross that line first before Piastri came through.
Yeah.
But either way, yeah, we come to the sprint race.
Yeah, and the sprint, this one, I mean, we've seen a couple, I think all 4 of the sprints previously had been only 19 laps. This is one that was 24 laps.
Because it's a shorter track.
Yeah, it's a shorter track. And right away, you could kind of feel the tension before, and you're just wondering, what is Piastri going to do? Is he going to do the team orders of, I'm going to help, I'm going to help? Is he going to do it? And lights are on, lights are out, and it's a clean start for everybody. But Piastri goes into defense mode immediately, cutting right across the track.
He just
and drives directly in front of Lando, which was
shocking.
It was bizarre.
Yeah.
Like he didn't even think about just getting a good start, because he did have a good start, but he took the start and went on an angle to cut off.
Oh, he came right across. Yeah, he came right across for Lando.
Yeah, and when you're watching the front-facing footage of it, he literally cuts across the whole track,
and, effectively compromising Lando, because he has to go into defense mode there.
Yeah,
and which compromises him to Leclerc and Verstappen and whoever else is right behind him.
Yeah, and I mean, Max at that point, obviously Max and Charles in the back are kind of watching what's going on. Max is again fighting Charles more than he's fighting the 2 at front. I think in the front, I think he was just kind of like, let them hit each other, take each other out. And Max is almost gets Charles on the first corner, but then he locked up.
Yeah.
And didn't lose his position, but and then he kind of stayed right on Charles, but you just couldn't get him for a very long time.
Yeah, Charles was doing a great job defending and kind of allowed the McLarens to kind of pull. Lando didn't really pull away too much. He was able to get a couple seconds, but Piastri pulled away probably 3, 4, 5 seconds in a few laps.
Yeah, and I want to say, I mean, I know everybody didn't say, "Oh, that's my favorite driver," but for the last few weekends, we've really got to see Charles do a lot of defending. Even in he did it in the sprint and he did it in the race today, where you see him backing up whoever's behind him and just making it difficult. He knows how to read Max, I think, from all the years of
you saw it, and you saw it today too.
Yeah, so he really knows how to make his car really wide and really frustrate whoever's behind him.
But is that a compliment when everybody's saying that the Ferraris are the fastest car now, and you're in the middle of the pack defending?
Yeah. I mean, I still think it's a compliment. I think he makes it difficult, but it wastes his battery. It wastes, his tires doing that. But I mean, if you can't get away with the lead
or catch the pack,
at least you're not letting people pass you. You're pissing everybody else off behind you. But very quickly on the radio, we do hear Lando about that cutoff. I thought we spoke about this,
Yeah.
was his comment. And even when he tried to go after Piastri again, Piastri was being a little dirty. He wasn't just letting
He
Lando
was getting his
through.
elbows out, and
Yeah,
they made a good comment. They're like,
yeah,
"Fine, maybe if I am gonna give this to you, if there are t" and we found out later on that there were team orders that
yeah,
they if Piastri was ahead, they're gonna let them, switch, which is,
yeah,
a 1 point gain.
yeah,
But, you know, he was probably gonna let them do it on the last or second last lap to show
yeah,
this was my race to win.
yeah. Which is,
I respect that.
I mean, I
I
get it.
respect it.
I respect it, but it's like that's very dangerous and very risky strategy because last lap anything could happen and luck might not be on your
Listen,
side if we want to talk
if
about luck.
they didn't specifically say, "Give the place away," or, if you talked about it beforehand and said, "Well, okay,
Yeah.
I'll give him the place." I
Yeah.
didn't tell you when I was gonna give it to him.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 24 laps.
Yeah.
It's not you're not gonna have to wait long, but you're gonna
No.
wait.
You're going to wait for it. And at one point we do hear McLaren tell Piastri to give Lando DRS. So basically slow down
Yeah,
so you can
Charles
so you can make him faster.
Charles and Max, like, they were in a DRS drive, so, I mean,
Yeah.
Lando's out there. He doesn't have DRS anymore, but Leclerc and Verstappen do.
Yeah.
So he's struggling,
Yeah.
which, I mean, that really compromises Piastri.
Yeah.
He's got to slow down, and we've seen it before. If you're giving somebody DRS and one of those two makes a mistake, you're letting that whole train through. Like,
Yeah.
you're losing everything. You're going from a 1-2 to like a 1-4
Yeah.
or a 2-4 or whatever it is.
Yeah, I mean, it is a situation where the person with the DRS chasing has sometimes been able to take two cars in
Yeah.
situations like what McLaren was asking Piastri to do. So like you said, it's risky and you are potentially ruining Oscar's race. And I
Well,
know Oscar's race is supposed to be Lando's in the end, but
but instead of making the switch on lap 10,
mhm,
wherever they could, now Lando can get away and Oscar has DRS and they can
yeah,
both get away together.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
And
but
just and truly let him defend because now you've made Oscar do all the work and you're like, "Okay, switch it around." Like, that just I'd be pissed too. I would be waiting till the last minute, making everybody sweat about it. Um, and I mean, like you said, Charles, and Max, they stayed within DRS forever.
yeah,
Like, it was a
yeah.
while, to the point that it was frustrating Max, and you could hear him on the radio being like, "Come on, Charles, you can't do that. You can't do, like." He was kinda talking to himself, but also talking to
Yeah.
the wall. Like, but, it was good racing from then, and then, like you said, we do get the McLaren orders that say, "Hold like this until the last lap, then you'll switch."
Yeah. Basically, you're gonna get to the last couple corners, you're gonna overtake them in the corner,
Yeah,
they won't have the opportunity to catch you at that point.
right. Um,
But, I mean, you're opening yourself up to somebody makes a mistake behind you, we get a safety car,
yeah,
everybody's bunched up, now
yeah,
everybody's in trouble.
yeah, everybody your entire
Yeah, yeah,
your 2 cars, and you've got, Max behind you who's good with restarts if there was a safety car. Um, but lap 18, Max gets Charles, and he immediately is increasing speed. He
yeah.
is gunning for Lando, and this is where, like you're saying, it it gets dangerous because now you have Lando, who you guys have been tussling for the last few weeks, or you Max, you've been fighting for the last few weeks, right behind you
Well, yeah,
again.
he gets Lando or Max on meets Max, or sorry, Max gets him on lap 20, something like that. And then the call, maybe it wasn't 20, but it was later on.
Yeah,
And the call comes in right away. It's like, okay, we're gonna switch.
yeah,
We're gonna switch. We're not waiting till the last lap.
yeah.
You got to switch.
You got to switch. Um, and then we lap 21. There's smoke coming out of Hulkenberg's car. And he has to yellow flag for, or there is a yellow flag for smoke, a smoke issue, but he's able to get to the
Yeah, it was
pit.
an exhaust issue or
Yeah.
something.
Um, and then, that's when we see the McLarens do their swap. But again, it puts Oscar in danger. And then we have the virtual safety car to kind of, I think that was to help uh,
Clear all
Nico
confusion.
get
Yeah.
him back to the pits. Um, and the interesting part about it is that the virtual safety car comes right after, the moment after they do that switch.
Yeah.
Not a second before, not 3 minutes before when it all happened. The minute they switch, that virtual safety car comes on. And it, there was really nothing at that point.
It neutralizes the race.
Yeah, there's nothing that anybody could do at that point. And then when we get the green flag, uh, Max is literally on Oscar's
Yeah.
car. Like he's just right there. And but it's the final lap. I mean,
Yeah,
they
Max within and at some point, correct me if I'm wrong, it has to be. I'm pretty sure Max had a 5-second penalty. He had to have
yes.
because he
Yes.
finishes behind Charles.
Yes.
This
Yes.
at
He
that point.
did
So
get a
he needed to
penalty.
get past Piastri and get, like another half a second. I mean, he only finished, he was less than a second ahead of Charles,
Yeah.
something like that. Either way, he finishes like less than a second behind Charles at this point. So,
Yeah.
or sorry, he was 4.5 seconds about that
Yeah.
ahead of him. So he really
Yeah.
needed to get ahead of him and make that run, but it
Yeah.
didn't work out, and so he gets to Lando actually gets 3 points on him instead of the 2 that he thought it was going to get.
Yeah. He thought he was gonna get a lot more points this weekend, but
Wow, yeah, that's
um so yeah, the McLaren gets their 1-2, but again, you can sense the tension in the post-race interviews uh with Naomi Schiff, who was the interviewer. You could kind of see already um Oscar and Max were not so happy. I mean, I think one of Max, or not Max, Lando, one of Lando's comments was, um, yeah, we did it, or something like that. Not so happy with it, but we did it.
yeah,
Uh,
not he wasn't proud of the way he won, but
yeah, but we did it. Um, and then of course, like we saw, they said, there's still more to talk about, and then Max gets the infringement for the safety car and driving too close to,
yes,
or
that's
too
what it was.
fast,
Yes,
too fast
he
to
increased the delta trying to beat trying
the
to
green flag.
jump the green light.
Yeah.
Yeah, or get it right at that green light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, McLaren 1-2, Max finishes fourth, like you said. Now we know he has this 5-second penalty that he already handled there, but then he's got the 5 grid place penalty, uh, coming for the race.
Yeah.
And so he needs to go to quali and qualify the best that he possibly can, which is scheduled for 4 hours after the sprint race. But then the skies open up.
Yeah, it was
and
pissing. It was pissing.
It was raining. Like, it was a storm. It wasn't just,
It was heavy rain, and
Saturday rain. It was
heavy rain, and heavy rain like that was just, and I kept getting alerts on my phone. The race will start, or quality will start in 15 minutes. No, now quality will start in half an hour from now. Quality will start in another 15 minutes from that. And it just kept going and kept going and kept going until they realized we can't do it.
Quality's not starting. And you could see they were sending the safety car out. It's an Aston Martin this year, right?
Yes.
Yeah, the safety car is an Aston Martin, not a race car, an actual car. But even Bert Mylander, he was struggling to drive.
Safety car driver.
The safety car driver. Yeah, I mean, he was struggling to drive because there's just so much water. There's a lot of hills, a lot of sitting water. But then even the runoffs, the grassy areas were flooding
Yeah.
because there was just um, so much rain. So eventually, quali gets, I think they said it was postponed. They don't give us a time or a day or anything. They just say it's postponed. And then they finally say it's going to be tomorrow morning. We're going to try and figure out another time to do it. The other issue is that the sun was setting, so this is not a track that's set up for
Yeah,
uh,
the visibility
lights.
is not there,
Yeah,
especially visibility with the rain going. It's not gonna.
yeah. So it just wasn't going to happen. So they finally said, you know what, we're going to do it tomorrow morning. Although there was rain still in,
Yeah.
it was on the radar still for rain today.
Well, and the idea was that if we couldn't get qualifying going, then you would have used the practice sessions, or was it sprint quality?
There was a couple things being rumored. So there is if it was a regular weekend, not a sprint weekend, you would fall back to a practice session. I don't
Yeah,
remember
and
if it
play
was
FP3.
yeah, I don't remember which. I think it's FP3, but there was no FP3. So they were saying most likely it is truly up to the stewards because they haven't had this situation with a sprint or on a sprint weekend.
Which you
Um,
think you would have just figured those rules out before you created a sprint. Like that
right,
should be like
right.
why wouldn't you have that in your mind?
You know it's happened before that you get rained out, so
Yeah.
or whatever reason.
Just
Um,
add a little regulation.
yeah. So, I mean, they add regulations for other things,
Or just make them up
but
as they go.
true. Um, but so it was possible that they could use the sprint quali results,
Okay,
which would
yes.
be not so bad for some people. um,
Yeah.
so that was an option as well. But this morning, like you said, at 5:30 our time,
Yes, our
we
time,
were
yeah.
up to watch quali, which still had rain,
Yep.
but it was just lighter. And
Yeah, well enough that they could go out on the inters, not on full wets.
yeah,
Um, and then that was pretty much their tire for the rest of the weekend.
that's all they could use. I
Yeah,
mean, some people went to the wets, but
I think only two
yeah,
people went to full wets in
yeah,
the race. Was it? It was Perez and there might have been somebody else. I don't remember. I do remember seeing blue. I just don't remember who it
yeah,
was.
there was a
It
couple.
was down near the end. It doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
there was a few blue people there,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, so I mean, quali, so just regular quali, and you have a bunch of stats there about quali. So I'm
Yeah,
gonna
there
let
was
Kevin talk.
there was a lot. Like we can talk about some of this stuff because there
Yeah,
is, but like just the rate at the way all of this stuff came out was just insane.
yeah,
So I mean, we had obviously quality late to Sunday. We had 5 red flags throughout the whole qualifying session.
yes.
Both Williams crashed, and both Williams were out.
Mhm.
Albon's was wrecked, just
Yeah.
destroyed. Both Aston
Albon
Martin.
actually seemed quite injured as well, but we haven't
Yeah,
heard if he was okay.
I mean, I
Uh,
assume he was
yeah,
because all the
I
talk
would
was about
assume.
the car, but
Yeah.
um,
I mean, we heard that he was okay when he got out of the car, but you could see he was holding his wrist and
yeah, and he was holding on to his as he crashed. He was holding on to his steering wheel, which
yeah.
he went into the wall pretty hard.
Yeah.
Um, and usually you're not supposed to hold on. I mean,
No.
you weren't going to control it at that point, so you might
No.
as well have just
Just
gone.
let it go. Yeah.
Um, both Astons crashed.
Mhm.
Sainz crashes as well.
Yeah.
Hamilton was out in Q1.
Yeah.
Both Red Bulls were out qualified by Bottas, and we'll talk about that. So, which means Verstappen starts at P17.
Mhm.
Ocon made it into P4, and he had a great drive all weekend. Um, Albon was deemed out before the race starts. Sainz was going to start from the
Yeah.
pit lane because of the components he had to take. And then we'll stop there for now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we get into the race. But
Yeah.
that was a lot.
Yeah, it was a lot. Q3 um so let's go back to Q2 for a second. So this is where we see Signs has his big crash. So he's out. His rear wing and his tire were gone. And so that was a red flag. They get
Well,
going again.
just in Q1, we have Colapinto who crashed, and we have
Mm,
Lewis who's
yeah,
out.
yeah,
Lewis couldn't put a lap together at all.
to save his life.
No.
To save his
And this
life,
is
he
a man
couldn't.
who likes the rain and loves Brazil.
Yeah, tough weekend for him.
Yeah. But yeah,
Lando was
so
almost out in Q1 as well.
yes,
Very close
he
to
got
being out.
right the last lap,
Yeah.
his last run.
So yeah, so Sainz has his big crash, red flag. We get going again. Lance Stroll has a crash where he hits the wall, damages his wing, and we have, I want to say there was 4, maybe 5 people on their fast lap. They're doing their timed lap at this point.
Yes.
Um and Stroll's car is not going anywhere. Like he's hit the wall. There's lots of damage. He's kind of rolled back a little bit, um, but he's not going anywhere. Max is also on his hot lap.
He's
Um,
2 cars behind Stroll, so he has to
yes,
slow down through Stroll's, at that point, double waved yellows.
yes, the double waved yellows, and we hear, and we don't know if this is what was actually going on in the steward's room or with the FIA. But we kind of hear that they're letting these people finish their hot laps, then they're going to throw out the
Yeah.
red. Weird. If it's a red, it should be a red. And so Lando goes through, Piastri goes through. I can't remember who the other ones were. I think there was 2 more.
Verstappen.
Well, so he doesn't get to go through. So when
But it was
Verstappen,
just before he gets there, but he was
yeah,
still on his flying lap.
he's still on his flying lap. And as the other ones finish, and Max is just getting to kind of where the accident is, red flag. And so he has
No,
to
he had already
stop.
passed the accident
Oh, yeah. So he had
because
passed
he
it.
was 2 cars behind Stroll,
Yeah.
so he had to lift and coast through that section. So he
Yeah.
probably lost about a second.
Yeah. And then he gets on his dash and on the flags at the side, we get the red flag. Max is furious. We actually hear from him. He's out. He's out at this
Yeah.
point. I think he qualified 12th, but with his 5 grid place penalty, that's why he was starting in
17th.
17th.
Yeah.
And so while Q3, gears up and he's going, gets going, they get Max in the pen, and the media pen, and he is just losing it to the point
Yeah.
that he swears again.
Calls it bullshit, yeah.
He calls it bullshit. And he is basically saying that, if it's a red flag and you know it, you need to call it immediately.
Well, yeah, and
And
Colapinto's the first red flag in Q3 took him 12 seconds to red flag it.
yeah.
Sainz was 18 seconds to red flag it.
Mhm.
Alonso in Q3
Mhm.
is 19 seconds to call it. Stroll's was 52.
Yeah.
Almost a whole minute.
Yeah. A minute to make that call. And that's what Max is super frustrated with.
Yeah.
And I mean, they said, they kind of thought that he was going to be able to get going again. Speaking with, well, I didn't speak with Christian, but Christian was speaking with some of the pundits after as well. And he said there was no way that car could have kept going. Andy hit the barriers. They would have had to repair. You don't want to call it
Yeah.
on impact because you never know what could happen, but it
And
shouldn't have taken a minute.
I think when they called it, there was 37 seconds left on the clock. So
Yeah.
not enough to get back out around
No.
the track.
No.
But if they had called it earlier, it's enough for Max to keep going on a flying lap. Like he
Yeah.
could have gone for just gone straight around.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean Max would have made it into Q3. It doesn't mean that he was going fast enough. I think his times he could have gotten into Q3, but probably in 10th. I think he would have just made
That's
it
all
in.
he needed.
Yeah, that's all you need. You just need to get there. But his anger made sense. But then you could also say, well, we have to figure out if the car really isn't going, but why did it take so long?
Yeah.
To figure that out. So, drama. So then we have Max starting um, in 17th. Seems impossible.
And
And we
actually,
oh,
sorry,
yeah, go ahead.
Lance gets into Q3. His
Yes.
first time was
It's
fast
the
enough
first time, yeah.
to get into Q3.
Yeah,
So he's supposed to be starting 10th.
yeah,
And he doesn't put up a time, obviously, in Q3 because his car is damaged, but
yeah.
it is fast enough.
It's good enough for him
It
to
takes a
get
yeah,
into
the guy who can't
Q3.
run anymore
Yeah,
takes everybody else out.
yeah, unfair, but it's racing.
Hey,
That's racing
it's the
for you.
second Brazil in a row that Lance Stroll has gotten into Q3 because last year, remember with the rain, he was in that
Yes.
awkward
Yeah,
P3 position, and
yeah, he
it
was
looked
just
like
like
he had no idea where he was supposed to be.
he's just looking
I'm never
around.
here. I don't
Yeah.
understand.
He's like, "What do I do? Where do I look?" Um, yeah, so Lando P1, uh, who's behind it?
George P2,
George P2 and Yuki
Yuki P3,
Tsunoda P3.
Ocon
Uh,
P4,
yeah,
Lawson, Leclerc, Albon, PS. Albon was 7th, and then he's one of the other ones that crashes.
yeah,
We have 2 actual red flags in Q3.
yeah,
We have Alonso and then Albon.
which are called very quickly as red
Very,
flags.
very
Which I
quickly.
mean, the damage to their cars was like
Oh,
beyond. There's
especially
debris everywhere.
yeah, especially Albon. He
So
was
yeah,
yeah.
but again, um, and so this is where it gets interesting because now you have Lando in P1. You have Max, who's the championship rivals right here in P17. It is pissing rain.
Yeah.
Like, it just seems impossible. If Lando wins this race, he cuts the gap for the championship to 40 points.
No, he was at 47, wasn't he, after last weekend? So it should have been
No, it
yes.
wasn't 20.
Yes, it was.
He wouldn't have been down to
Yes, it
20.
was because now Max has a 62-point lead.
Yeah.
So I believe he was at 47 points. Either way, it was like around
Yeah.
50, just around ish. That I mean, this race was going to go, to me, in my mind, it was going to go one of two ways. It was, either Orlando takes all the points and Max is out or can't pass because of the rain, because of the conditions, or it's
Mhm.
going to become complete chaos and everything gets thrown in the blender. And, either Lando's out or Max is out. One of the two.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting what happened, but
I
it was
don't think
it was
anybody was expecting.
it was possible that Lando could have cut down this lead to like 25 or 30 this weekend.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, anything would have been possible. And I think it would make the last 3 races that we have remaining now very stressful. And I'm sure Max sitting in P17 was like, shit. Like, what am I going to do? And
Oh, I think
here's,
he was just more determined than ever.
oh, yeah. I mean, and he knows Max, like you said, Lewis is a good rain driver, drives well in the rain. Alonso is, but so is Max.
Mhm.
And Max drove in Brazil in 2016 in the rain. And anytime he's in the rain,
Yeah.
he can really capitalize on it. And we get into the race. So before the race, like you said, Albon not starting. So there's this gap in P7.
There was a
Is that
gap
what
in
it was?
P7, yeah.
And then we
Which
have
is really weird because they still keep that spot just free.
yeah,
Like they don't move everybody up.
no,
You just your number shows differently. It's
yeah,
just with that grid box.
you're just there.
Yeah. It's almost
And
like
then
they
and then
can't
you
like
drop all the way at the bottom.
yeah. It's almost like if you don't you don't let them start in the position they're supposed to be, they'll get all kerfuffled. They have no idea where they're gonna go. It's just
Happens,
it's
I
weird.
guess.
I guess.
And then we have the formation lap, and everybody gets going
It's raining.
normally.
Yeah.
It's raining and yellow flag. Yellow flag is a bizarre thing for a formation lap. And it kind of the camera pans and it is Lance Stroll in an he's hit the wall.
I'll
but
give
you
him
do-
this one. I'll give him this
Yeah.
one. Like it's an undulating track, so there's a lot of hills and ups and downs, and it was on a spot where he must have hydroplaned He was on a downhill and he just lost it. And now it's a fresh track. We saw everybody this weekend. If their tires were on the white lines, which are brand new painted white lines, which are supposed to be anti-slip, but when you're in the rain, I guess it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Anybody on those white lines or anything like that was going off. And so I think I'm not going to put it's unfortunate that it was Stroll because the memes
Yeah.
are great.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily think it was his fault at this point. I think he caught a puddle or something and he lost it. He just couldn't. And then on a
Yeah.
downhill, he just kept going.
Yeah. And I mean, there is this great, not so great video of him trying to fix it.
Yeah, that's that one I'll give him.
Yeah,
That one's on him.
That
one's on him.
So do you want to explain what happened there?
Yeah, I mean, well, like any other track, there's gravel traps. So if a car and this was because it was on the downhill, and if you lose the back end, you lose any part of your car, you go into a spin, these gravel traps catch you. Basically, they beat your car, so you're not going to go into the barriers and take a high force smack into the wall.
Yeah.
The way he hits and it slides off, it's on the actual like a track portion that outlines this gravel trap.
Yeah.
So drivers can, if they do go off track, they can rejoin and in a safe position.
Safely.
Yeah. And so as he's changing gears back into from reverse to drive or whatever, so he can go, he does correct himself. And then instead of following the pavement, he decides, I'm going to do a complete 180 and drive straight through this wet, deep gravel.
Yeah.
That's designed to stop me. What did he think was going to happen?
I don't know.
Like, did he must have done this and thought, fuck, I'm going to hear about this when I get back to the garage. Like, it was just a small portion of his wing that was damaged. The little upper flap there that was damaged. He could have gone in right back to the pits. They would have had a pit lane start. They would have changed the wing. Would have been fine. I'm assuming that's fine. But yeah, he just I can't for the and this is a why. It's not like he was missing it. No. It was there. He was facing the track that he could have rejoined.
Yeah.
And
all I can picture is like when he gets back to the pit lane, someone hands him a cell phone and is like, "Your dad's on the phone."
Yeah.
And
the
your
video
dad wants to talk to you.
The video I saw and I sent you, it's from the fan perspective in one of the grandstands. And as soon as he beaches himself, all the Brazilian fans just start clapping for him like, you idiot. Like, we knew this was going to happen.
Yeah.
Like we all know that you shouldn't be doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
It was just...
Yeah. It was kind of funny.
It's hilarious.
It was kind of
it's
funny.
So
I mean,
frustrating.
him crashing in the first place, not funny. Like you said, not his fault. It's just everybody.
No, that was unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of people that were slipping off, going off track. This is Alonso, Lewis. I mean, some people were able to save it. Some people weren't. People were doing 360s. So this was just a sign of the race. But beaching yourself.
Yeah, the fact that you went off, it's not your fault. The fact that you have a DNS, a did not start or do not start or whatever the hell is, that's your fault. That's 100% your fault.
So
such an
idiot. Happens. Not really.
No, it doesn't. Not intentionally. Not intentionally.
So what now comes across everybody's steering wheels is it's an aborted start. So everybody kind of what they're supposed to do is go back to their position on track, their lineup position, and they're just supposed to wait there. Is what aborted start means, because obviously something's gone wrong. They can see the yellow flags that are very flashing.
Clearly there's amber lights, like where the start lights are. They're yellow, which means nobody's really racing. Just
don't do anything.
Don't go.
Just go back. Aborted start. So they get there, and everybody kind of lines up, and then you see Lando, George, Yuki.
The first four.
They kind of go. And
Yeah, Lando goes first, and then George is kind of just like, all right, and then
Yeah,
everybody's like, sure, I guess we're just gonna go.
sure.
We're gonna go around
We're
again.
we're gonna go around.
It's,
But again, we can see that orange light is still, or the amber light is still flashing.
yeah, nobody's
And
actually. We didn't get anything for radio messages.
no, all we heard was aborted start.
Yeah, like
That's
did
all we heard.
Lando's pit wall say you can go? You'll like did they think there was gonna be like under they were gonna start the race under a safety car and they thought they were gonna come and catch the safety car again?
So I don't know, but we did hear at the end, we heard Ocon. So after the race was done, we heard Ocon's what they said on his. But before we get there, we see the back half of the grid kind of starting at Max, who's in 17. I think everybody pretty much behind Max. Somebody in front
No,
of
there's a
Max,
few, yeah. There was a couple
and
in front of
then
him, and he was probably like third or fourth behind that. Yeah.
there was a couple behind him.
Yes.
None of them moved.
No.
And you're kind of like, okay, what's going on here? And then they, flip to Max's radio, and it says aborted.
Yeah.
Aren't we supposed to stay here? And GP says, yes, you're doing exactly what you need to do. Don't go anywhere. And that's when we get Bernie Collins, and she's on, and she's kind of just going and explaining everything. We talked about her before, former Aston Martin strategist.
Yeah.
And now she's an analyst. And she basically explains that there's two different cancellations. There's an aborted start and an abandoned start.
Yeah.
And abandoned start is the one that Lando was doing, where you kind of keep going, you pick up the safety car at some point.
Yeah, you're abandoning the standing start, and you're just gonna go.
Or they're gonna bring you back through the pit lane, and what have you. But aborted start means go back to where you were. Your mechanics are going to come to you on track. You're going to warm up your tires again, and we'll figure it out.
We're going to redo it like all again.
Yeah. And you could sense not that fear, but the concern from Karun Chandok and Crofty. They were kind of like, what did Lando just do? He just ruined his race.
Oh, yeah.
Because very quickly we know it's now being investigated. Why did Lando go? And
at first it was only Lando being investigated, which was strange. Like he wasn't the only person.
Yeah. No. And I mean, one of the comments was, you can't have the excuse, oh, well, I saw Lando go, so I went. Well, no, you should know the rules because everybody else stayed. Well, not everybody else, but a lot of people did stay. So they know the rules.
If everybody jumps off a bridge, are you going to jump?
Yeah.
Yeah. It looks pretty fun.
Right. So they kind of go around, figure it all out. And they kind of say, we're going to figure out this race infringement, the race start infringement after the race. And the race starts before they tell us that. But
at first, I thought it was pretty suspect. Karun made a very good explanation that a lot of times there's going to be investigations or interviews with the drivers, pit walls if they needed to or whatever, or team principal. I thought it was very suspect. I thought they were going to be like, let's see how it goes and let's see how bad we want to punish these people.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought they were going to say, well, it was confusing.
Let's see who wins.
It's confusing. But anyways, the race starts. Russell, who's in second, doesn't have the greatest start, but all of a sudden takes off.
I don't think it was that he took off. I think Lando forgot how to change gears. I think he gets away faster than George, and then all of a sudden, like his car just doesn't move anymore, and it just looks like he's either he squibbed something on a gear change or something. It wasn't quick enough. It wasn't as efficient as Russell was doing it. And it's not. It's a very, very short run to turn one.
Well,
and he is a whole car length ahead at turn one.
Yeah, well, and I don't know if you heard this, but Crofty and Karun were actually saying this is a track where you start in second gear. So when they're at their lineup, they're starting in second gear. So I don't know if maybe Lando wasn't in second gear, and
Maybe
I
he was
think
still
if they
talking about the start. Who knows?
yeah, they were trying to figure it out. Um, but yeah, Russell takes off and he is just gone. Absolutely gone.
Well, I mean, it's still raining. He's the one in front. He's got no mist in front of him.
Yeah.
And like I was watching it. Bianca was right beside me. She saw the start and she's like, I don't like this. She was getting nervous. Like she was visibly upset by this
Yeah.
start and just how close everybody was and the
Yeah.
lack of visibility.
Yeah. I mean, it was scary. It
Yeah.
was very scary.
Yeah. For 3 hours.
Yeah. And then by the first corner of the second lap,
Yeah.
Max Verstappen, who started in 17th, is in 10th.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
in one lap, he has made it he's made up 7 positions.
And just it's amazing the faith he has in his car because right off the start, he just takes I mean, everybody's still in like kind of in their positions in their left or right track, and he just
Yeah.
goes right in the middle and says, I'm going through everybody.
Bye.
And then as soon as they get through the first 2 turns and everybody's following each other because they're so worried about water and where the track is driest or the water's being moved by their
Yeah.
tires, they're kind of following each other to train. He says, no, I'm going to take out everybody else on the outside
Yeah.
and just quickly
Yeah.
and just faith in his brakes, faith in his tires, faith in his car, and
Yeah.
he overtook everybody
Yeah.
very, very quickly, like within half the lap, and then a last couple of them at
Yeah.
the end.
Well, because I mean, at that point, I think they were doing lap times of like a minute 29 or
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
Uh,
Where
it's
fastest lap in the sprint qualifying was a minute 18 in
yeah,
the 118s.
yeah, and it is pissing. He's on inters. So to make up in a minute and a half to make up 7 positions is insanity. And as soon
Yep.
as we knew he was going to come up through the grid. I didn't think it was going to be that quick.
I wouldn't see when he did that. I thought like because we weren't really even looking at him. You're
No,
looking at the front. You're looking at like he's in
no,
17th. It's raining. I didn't think there was going to be a lot. I was just looking for contact. And
yeah,
as soon as he said he's in 10th, because I wasn't looking at the position changes. As soon as he said he was in 10th, I'm like, he's going to win. Like
yeah,
he's going to win it.
yeah.
And there was
At,
just no
at,
doubt that he wasn't going to catch everyone.
at that point, I mean, I think I texted you and I said, "This is Max's race to win." I mean, there's no way if he could do that so quickly. And again, people that are usually back markers were in the top 10. So
Yeah.
people that he usually picks off very easily if he's ever behind them, they're in front of him in the rain that they don't have his talent in the rain.
No.
Um,
And he gets everybody by 10 or 7 places into 10th by lap 1. But by lap 10, there's like the next 3 places he took out pretty quickly. It was Lawson, it was somebody I can't remember who else it was.
yeah.
He gets through Piastri. I said, well, I text you and I said the only problems he's going to have once he's in 10th is going to be Piastri and Leclerc. And
Yeah.
Piastri wasn't a factor. Piastri
No.
just looked like, go ahead, take him.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not putting my life at risk trying to defend you. Go ahead.
Yeah.
And I think, Leclerc was his only real stopping piece.
Yeah.
Who was defending great in the rain.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like he was it was just taking them longer.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it was just
He would
again, these two know how to they know how to race each other. Charles is usually behind, so he knows what moves Max is going to make. And he's putting his car where he needs to.
I thought it was just going to be a matter of time before we had that Lando Max battle, which I thought could have gone very wrong.
Yeah.
Kind of luckily that we didn't get it. We'll talk about why, but
yeah.
yeah.
So then we have when does this happen? We have both Mercedes adjusted. We get a weird investigation is going to come to the Mercedes that they have changed tire pressure during that
restart.
during the restart when
Been
everybody
aborted.
the aborted restart,
Yeah.
um, everybody, the mechanics were able to come when everybody came back around this time, and the Mercedes, McLaren, everybody kind of plays with their tires, which is what have you. But they can only change the tire pressure when the tires are off the
Yeah.
car, not on the car.
Yeah.
Mercedes on both cars did not take the tires off, adjusted the tire pressure on the car. So they were under investigation, which was going to be decided after the race.
And at this
Again,
point, Russell's in first.
yes. So struggles. And everybody's, we've got this lingering, the race start, the Mercedes, investigation that's going to happen. So there's a
Yep.
lot that's kind of like, ooh, what's going to happen here? Um, lap
We also
32.
we also
Oh,
get to notice that the rest of the pack that did take off on that aborted lap were
yes.
all going to be investigated.
Yes, everybody's gonna be in trouble.
So
We're all yeah.
that's Lando, Russell, Ocon, Sonoda, and was there one more? Might have been one more.
Liam, did you
Leclerc.
say that?
Either way,
Yeah,
there's 4 or
a
5
bunch
drivers.
of
Those
people.
4 and maybe another one.
Yeah. So lap 32, Franco Colapinto goes into the pits to switch his tires. I think he was one that was going on to wets, I believe, or he was on wets and was going to inters.
No,
Um,
everybody started on inters, I believe
everybody
today.
started on
So
inters.
yeah,
And then comes out of the pit lane, immediately crashes. And
and like this is a car that is
badly.
just been repaired. He had been running a great race. He
Yeah.
had a couple of good battles with Lewis. A lot of
Yeah.
confidence in that car, and they had just made the comment that at least that car's that the mechanics did a great job fixing that car.
Yeah.
And so badly that there's radiator fluid coming out,
Yeah.
like
Spewing.
licking the track, and
Yeah.
yeah, and
Not a good.
it was probably over about 100 feet of debris.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
bad.
It took a while.
Yeah.
And he was so apologetic. You could hear the crowd, like, the air came out of the crowd. He was okay. And so
Well,
that caused a red flag.
well, sorry, we glazed over a part here.
Oh, did we?
Yes, Hulkenberg causes a virtual safety car. So everybody's kind of
Right.
deciding how long are we gonna be able to go on these inter tires. We had a couple of people that switched. Perez was one. During this virtual safety car, I think it was like 2 laps of virtual safety car, something like that. Russell and Lando decide not to pit on that first lap around on the virtual safety car. When they
Yes.
come back around, probably around on, I guess it would have been in the second time around. I think they said something you save something like 6-7 seconds on this virtual, or no, sorry, it goes from 21 to 12 seconds you save. Or that's the length of the safety car affected. As they come into these pits, that virtual safety car ends and it's a green flag. And so they effectively now have this full pit stop time, whatever, which allows the back 4 to pass by them, which is Ocon takes the lead, Verstappen's in second, Gasly's in third, and then yes, because Leclerc had already pit that's why Verstappen was up that high.
Yeah.
He had already pit. And so yeah, they take the lead of the race. And then Russell and Lando slot in 5th and 6th or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was, so they were both told to box, and
They're both told it was the right time.
Where it ended, they almost, I think Lando was behind.
They slotted in 6th.
Yeah. Lando probably could have quickly gone back out because they weren't quite in the pit lane when it ended, but they were like on the road to get into the pit lane. But it would have been dangerous if he did go back out.
He would have taken a penalty for coming back across those white lines,
right,
anyways.
which probably would have been worse. So he goes in. They're both frustrated because at that point they realize it's now green. They're both losing it. And then kind of when they come out, I think you're
They
right.
come
It's
out
like
fifth or
1 or 2. They come
sixth.
out fifth or sixth,
Yeah,
and
and
then
Leclerc was behind. Yeah, Leclerc was
one
fourth.
or two laps after that is where Franco Colapinto has his red
Red
flag.
flag. Yeah.
And then what happens in a red flag? Everybody's allowed to change their tires
Yep.
if they need
Yep.
to. And so
Lose no time.
Lando immediately is like, so I guess everybody gets a free tire change now, huh? And they're like, yep. I mean, it is what it is. George is cussing on his radio. I
Yeah.
knew it. Like,
Well, and we had a few, like, as soon as that virtual safety car came out, there was a lot of people that came in. It was a
mhm.
whole gaggle of cars. There's probably like
Yeah.
6, 7, 8 cars that came in
Yeah.
for their tire changes.
Yeah. So, but that red flag lasted a while. I want to say it was like probably 20 minutes.
Yeah, there was a lot of debris that they had to clean up.
Yeah.
They clean up the fluid that had spilled, and
Yeah.
yeah,
They had to clean up. They put I guess the sand down to soak up the
yeah,
fluid.
yeah. I mean, it was
Then they
enough
have
that
to,
a lot of the cars could get out of their vehicles, you
yeah.
know, and talk with their team. What's the strategy? Blah blah
Yeah.
blah.
I know Oscar and Liam had come together, and apparently Oscar had gone over to Liam during this red flag and said sorry.
Yeah, because he was trying to pass on the inside, and I guess he
Yeah.
realized it wasn't going to work, but he couldn't really stop under the
Yeah.
wet, and he kind of just touched his back tire.
Yeah, which I was like, okay. I mean, they're going to go talk to each other. Also, during this red flag, Hulkenberg gets a black flag and is disqualified
Well, yeah, so the
from the
virtual,
race.
yeah, during that, yeah, because
Yeah, that's when
he
he was notified
that's when he was
during the
notified.
red
Yeah, yeah,
flag.
yeah.
Yeah,
So he gets pushed because when he had his virtual safety car, he was stuck. He was stuck on the drains.
yeah,
Like I don't know how that happened. I guess they're just inset, and he couldn't.
yeah,
And so the marshals actually helped him, and he rejoined the race,
yeah.
which you're not allowed to do.
No, nobody can touch your car. So yeah, he got disqualified. And then
He's kind of just like, because they were talking to Ted, and Ted was right beside Hulkemer, and they were talking like, and they're telling him like, Ted, go tell him that he's disqualified
yeah,
because he
he
hadn't
had
known
no
yet.
idea.
Yeah,
He had
and then his
no
engineer
idea.
gets back to the pit lane and tells him, and he's like, yeah, okay, I figured.
Okay, all right.
These
All
guys
right.
know the rules.
Yeah, exactly. Um, Then we have a rolling start to restart after this 10-minute red flag or 20-minute red flag. Ocon takes off. Max can't get him right away. And then Ocon gets ahead. He gets
Yeah,
ahead by like 3 point something seconds very quickly. Norris almost tangles with Russell and Piastri. He goes off, which allows everybody to get through, really, or
and
just
when he
Piastri.
came back, I thought he was going to hit somebody. He came back
Hmm.
very dangerously.
I thought so too. Yeah, I thought so too. Um, and we kind of just keep going. Lap 40, Carlos crashes, which is a safety car. And then by the time that's all cleaned up, we're now onto another rolling start.
Yeah,
And there's only 15 cars remaining in this race at this point. Like we're just taking them off one by
one by
one.
one. Yeah,
And Ocon has another good start, but Max is like not happening twice.
no.
And he gets him on lap 43. And
Yeah,
Norris went,
69 now this time.
yeah, yeah.
We lost 2 laps.
We lost a couple of laps there. And then very quickly, Max is
It's
2
gone.
seconds ahead. And he just keeps going.
He's gone. He set 17 fastest laps. I mean, he was just
Yeah.
beating himself.
Yeah.
Lap after lap after lap. As soon as it started drying up a little bit more,
Yeah.
and he was
Yeah.
into the 121s,
Yeah.
I want to say. Yeah.
He was just flying at that point. And he's in first. He's all by himself, and he's got Ocon behind him and Gasly in third. McLaren tells Oscar to give Norris the position for sixth
Yeah.
for the extra couple of points.
And then at some point, Yuki locks up.
Yes.
Somehow, Lando gets back out in front of him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a mess, a complete
Oh
mess
yeah,
of a
yeah,
race. And then, like you said, Alonso was in serious pain. Um, and then
yeah.
we're getting into again. You said it's lap 69, or there's 69 laps, and we're getting into the 60th, 61. Max is 15 seconds ahead,
Yeah.
17 seconds ahead. Like,
Yeah.
he ends up winning this race 19
19.
seconds ahead of
Yeah.
Ocon in second place. This
Yeah.
is a man that started in 17th. Like, and he won. So he not only did he get to P1,
Yeah.
he put a gap and was starting to lap cars at that point.
Yeah.
You never lap cars in rain
Well,
that
and
that much.
no, he was. There were actually no lapped racers this race because of all the restarts. I was
Right.
looking. I
Well,
was
he
looking
was,
at the flags, and I'm like, I think he was 80 seconds ahead of Zhao, but
yeah.
which is almost lapping him. But
Yeah, he was getting close. I don't know, at the end there, they were saying he was gonna catch
he
up to
was
the
going to
back of
catch him.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think if he's doing a 120, 121, he would have caught him
Yeah.
pretty quick. Um, I mean, he would have caught it. He would have caught everybody anyways, even if
God.
he had just there was no red flag at that convenient time.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
was in sixth at that point, I want to say,
Mhm.
and he only had Ocon and Gasly uh, to get through before he got to Norris,
Yeah.
who's fifth, or he's fifth at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Eh, it was
he
there. I mean, it was just, you can't take this race away from him. For a lot of drivers this weekend, it was a race to forget. For him, this is a race to remember.
he's the only the fifth person to ever win from 17th or lower
Yeah.
out of
And
a thousand
I did 50, almost 1,500
1100
or 1,200 or something like that.
1100
Yeah.
racers or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever it is. Yeah,
And he has now won from 10 different positions
positions.
on track.
Yeah.
Like, it's just insane. And there's two names that Crofty threw out: vintage Verstappen and then a Max Masterclass. Like, but it really was
It
like
was. It was.
this is, we've kind of talked about it. We've said, when the last car you want to see coming up behind you is Max Verstappen, and he hasn't really showed us that the second half of this season,
No.
where he has been in the back, and he did it today.
Well, and that's what I was saying before. Like, I feel like he had a chip on his shoulder this weekend. He
Hmm.
felt like he got screwed out of a fair shot for this
Yeah,
weekend,
yeah,
and he was just going to make an example of everybody that doubts him or
yeah,
everybody that wants to take him down.
yeah,
I mean, even Seb said this weekend that when he's on his best, there's
yeah,
nobody that's going to beat Verstappen.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a few people that have actually come to his defense, because he's had a rough couple of weeks. Some
Some self-inflicted,
inflicted.
and if you ask him, it's in certain types or countries' media.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, even FIA has been on
Yeah.
him. Like,
Yeah.
the teams have been, going
Well,
at
yeah,
him.
I mean, he has been. It seems in the last couple weeks that he's been unfairly picked on. I
Yeah,
mean,
he's been
it
on
starts even
him.
with like the
Like,
swearing
the
incident. Well,
team.
until he brought it up in the media scrum this week, it
Yeah,
wasn't, that Charles Leclerc was now being
yeah,
investigated, and he only got a $5,000 fine, 10,000, but 5,000 suspended if he does it again in the next 12 months. That's a very light. You're giving Max community service, like you're forcing him to do something else when he probably does his own community service.
yeah.
And now you're
Like,
gonna Charles just like, okay, you know what? Just give us $5,000, which he's got
yeah.
in his pocket.
Well, and I mean, there was plenty of, and I think this is actually a good example of a weekend where this is race F1 is dangerous on a good day.
Yeah.
It is extremely dangerous on a weekend like this, with the rain being on wets. We saw it. Everybody was
Yeah.
going off. We're lucky it's only 5, and we're lucky that none of those 5 hit somebody else. They
Well,
all had their own crashes.
you're on, but we saw lots of touches on track.
Yeah.
They just
Yeah.
weren't of
Yeah.
anything of any real consequence.
Yeah.
But you have the wet, you have the speed they're at. it's changing from light rain to heavy rain. We've got
Mhm.
bumpy tracks, so this car is already unstable. If you go
Yeah.
through any other kind of changes, apparently the paint on the floor was
Yeah.
causing uh, uh, crashes as well.
Yeah.
It was just like a circus of all these things. Like
Well, and if you expect these, again, grown men to not swear in these conditions.
when they're literally about to be concussed
Yeah.
or
Like,
somebody's going to kill them.
yeah, like I don't know. Again, there was a lot of swearing this weekend. I don't know if we're still going to see those penalties for Max swore, George swore, Yuki I think swore at
Yuki
one
did,
point too.
yeah.
Lewis I think swore. Like,
I think throughout the weekend he scored twice during, was it the FP1 or the qualifying or something?
yeah, earlier in the weekend.
Yeah.
So what
Did you say
are we
George too?
just
You said George.
George?
George
Yeah,
did, yeah.
he swore
He was angry.
after
He was so
he
mad.
said it twice.
Yeah, he did in the same sentence.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, I think you're right. He did have a chip on his shoulder and he didn't come to play this weekend.
And you know what? He's not completely wrong in
No.
having this, and it's not like he's more so saying, "Hey, treat me like you treat everybody else."
Yes. Yeah.
It's not like he's saying that he shouldn't be penalized, or
No.
he's just saying it's not fair.
Yeah. And so, I mean, Max wins. I think this is the happiest I've ever seen Max on
It's
a
the
win.
happiest in a long, long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a
This one
big
meant something to him.
smile, like a
Yeah.
big smile across his face. Then we have Ocon and Gasly, an unlikely pair, on the podium with him,
And in
which makes Alpine jump way
into a
up.
position if they keep it,
Yeah, $50 million
which,
bonus,
yeah,
or it's not really a bonus, but
well, yeah, it's just, yeah, well,
money.
basically the
Yeah,
money
it's kind
that
of a
they
bonus.
didn't think they were going to get.
Yeah,
Um, if I th- they jumped over, who was it? Williams, the V Carbs, and the Haas just
hmm
with this one win,
yeah,
which shows you how close that that
that
midfield pack,
midfield.
or
Yeah,
that bottom of the pack, whatever you want to call it.
yeah,
Um, but I mean, you think about it in terms of this weekend, it's probably going to cost Williams like 2.5 mil,
yeah,
probably just this weekend alone, if
yeah.
not more.
And they've got 3 more
That
races.
that 50 million to do that, and then to lose out on millions of dollars is crushing for a
Yeah.
team that small.
Yeah. It's gonna do damage.
Yeah.
For more damage than has already been done.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a good weekend for Alpine though. And just before we started filming this, we kind of finally got the answer about the race start issue with Lando and George and Yuki and Liam and all them. So Lando and George got a reprimand and were fined €5,000 each
Yeah.
for their aborted start, not aborted start.
Yeah. Just yeah.
And then the other drivers that went ahead and that were also being investigated, which was Yuki and Liam, no further action for them. Because George and Lando were on front row, I guess they're the leaders and
first two
people
to
were
go, yeah.
following them. So fair, I don't know, but
That's just what it is.
that's
it.
just what it is. And then Lando had some remarks, which, I mean, they're insignificant, but I thought it was.
I don't think they're insignificant. I think it plays, it shows his immaturity as a driver, as immaturity in the position he's in right now. And it's just a very hypocritical answer.
Yeah.
Because if the shoe was on the other foot, you'd be saying that it wasn't. So for anybody that doesn't know,
Yeah.
I guess we should get into that.
Like, we should probably say what it was.
So he just says, if you take a gamble and it pays off, and it paid off for them today, it's not talent, it's just luck. I mean, first of all,
And
Strat
he's referring to the red
the red
flag
flag,
where
giving them yeah,
he had
and he's also
gotten he had done his pit
they
stop and then
and
the
they
red
get the
flag right
free
after.
they and then they get the free tire change. Said
Yeah.
it's a rule that nobody likes. Well, you know what? People do like it
Yeah.
because if it works out for you, it works out for you. If it doesn't work
Yeah.
out for you, then you don't like it. I
Yeah.
mean, really, it's just a matter of point of view. The
Yeah.
rule is the rule. It's always there. It's how you
Yeah.
use it. So,
Well, and I mean, yes, you can get lucky by getting a safety car. Is it helps you out in a scenario. There's been many times where a lot of teams, McLaren,
we've
have
heard it all
based
year this year.
have based an entire race strategy on a safety car.
They've come into weekends where they say, "Well, we get 100% safety car on this track."
Yeah.
Or we get an 85% safety car on this track.
Yeah.
So this is one of the things. And they'll look at it. Oh, it's usually somewhere between laps 25 and 55 or
Yeah.
whatever.
So you
And
see them
and
asking about tires. How are the tires? We're
yeah,
gonna go a little bit longer.
we want to go.
Like,
Yeah. And this weekend too, we saw, I mean, before they came in on the virtual safety car, they were looking at, I think we only had maybe four, maybe two drivers that had come in and changed their tires at that
mhm.
point.
Yeah.
Everybody else could have gone an extra 2, 3 laps.
Yeah.
They would have easily made that safety car.
Yeah.
And this one was just, okay, and they made that call too late. Had they
Yeah.
not made that call that late, maybe they would have, I mean, they would have come out behind, but maybe they wouldn't have been in 5th and 6th, they would have been in 2nd and 3rd or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just like you said, it's hypocritical, it's immature to say that it
To
was
s
luck
to say their
and
win was luck and not
not talent.
talent. I mean, Max was gonna be there regardless. Max was
Like,
gonna be fighting for 2nd with you or fighting for 1st.
yeah.
Regardless, it was
Yeah.
going to happen. He
Yeah.
made sure it happened by lap 1, and he had another 6 to 8 laps to go.
Yeah. And I mean, like, and I did see this on social media. Uh, Someone commented and said Max came through 16 drivers, made it through 16. He had to overtake 16 people.
Yeah,
You couldn't get past George.
yeah,
So,
and
you know,
even, when he locks up, he goes behind, Piastri gives him that place, and he only gets past Yuki because Yuki goes off.
yeah,
I mean, it's
the talent, Mac, we know
you
Max
can't
has the
say that
talent.
yeah,
And it's not that Lando doesn't have talent, and nobody's saying that, but so it was weird for him to say it. And I mean, the last thing we can say about this is Lando needs to remember that he won his first race, Miami, under a safety car.
yeah,
So did you get lucky at that point, or was it your talent
and you're
or the
gonna
strategy?
you're gonna correct the 3-time reigning driver champion, who's going
Right.
to be the 4-time driver champion.
Yeah.
And I'm not
Yeah.
saying this because I'm a Max fan. I
Yeah.
mean,
But
even
you're just
today,
as equally a
yeah,
Lando fan too. So
even today, after Max posts whatever he posts on Instagram or Twitter, Lewis says, "Amazing drive."
yeah,
Like,
I did see
to
that.
get that from Lewis, who you've had your issues with, but
Yeah.
is also one of the best drivers in the world.
Yeah.
What I mean? It's talent. It's
Yeah.
there's Yes, they gained a free 21 or 12 seconds, however you want to look at it.
Yeah.
He was catching you.
Yeah.
It did not matter.
He was
And
coming.
that red flag, what lap was it again? That was
32.
lap 32. Lap 32. He had
He was already in
37
6th.
laps left.
Yeah.
Even if he had taken a pit stop, he had 37 laps left.
Yeah.
Like, it's I
His
don't
times, you just have to go back to the times. Like his 17 fastest laps. Like, I mean, we could keep talking about this forever, but it just, I don't think it was a fair comment. And maybe once he watches the race, maybe he'll understand. And
I don't think he's in that headspace at the moment. I think he
no.
is. Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's the Lando villain era.
Mhm.
And he just doesn't understand how to handle success and the failures that come after success.
No.
It's, I don't know.
And I
No.
think we've said it a few times because it has been McLaren's fault. I think McLaren has created this monster with how they've handled.
Yeah.
I don't want to say he's a monster, but like how they've handled this entire season, really, with him and Piastri. They've created where we're at with Lando right now, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But all right. Well,
Yeah, Max wins. I
Max
mean,
wins.
I think we kind of went through all the news that happened the weekend. There
Yeah.
wasn't a lot of like
No.
banter back and forth, thank God,
No.
between teams. So there's not much to say about that. I did have something in my head and I completely forgot what it was now. So it doesn't matter.
Okay.
If I remember, I'll say it.
Okay.
But we can go on. Are you fresh set in Dirty
Yeah.
Air? Yeah.
Fresh set. I think you're going to be very shocked with mine.
Oh, sorry. Quickly, before we get to
Oh.
that, that's what I wanted to say. Max, like I said earlier, 62 points ahead. If Max is 60 points ahead by Vegas, or by the end of Vegas, he will have clinched the title.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's that. He's just
Which is the next race.
Which is 3 weeks from now. We have 2 weeks off. And so if he does that, it's I mean,
and all
if he doesn't do it in Vegas, if it's a 1-2, that's 7 points. He's going to do it in the next 2 races. Lando's not going to catch him.
No.
62 points up.
No.
It would have to be an absolutely monumental collapse.
Yeah.
For him to lose his title.
Yeah, exactly. Anyways.
Yes. So anyways, fresh set and Dirty Air.
Fresh set. Like I said, mine is, you're going to be a little shocked. I'm going to say the Alpines being on the podium. For a while there, it looked like, I mean, we know Max was hunting and Max was going there, but it looked for a while that Ocon was going to win. And I was kind of like, good for you. We've come against Ocon so much, but I was like, you know what?
I didn't think it was
capitalize on the moment. But I mean, obviously, I think it was just that top 3 in general, but the Alpines being there, I think it meant so much to both those drivers and to the team that it was just, how could you not?
Yeah, I think, you know what, I always like to try to pick something different than you. I mean, I guess I could pick like Behrman's drive this weekend, especially coming in on such short notice, and putting himself respectfully into 12th today. You know, doing really well in qualifying. You know what, I will. I kind of want to split it up. As much shit as we give Ocon, he was fantastic all weekend. He was really great in the wet. I mean, it's just the way it was. So I'll give it to Ocon and Behrman. I have to kind of split up there. Just 2 great drives from all of them. From
both of them. And I think, I mean, just adding quickly to that, and they did say it at the end, too, is this Alpine has been moving up. We're not really paying attention to it, but Gasly has been getting into Q3s.
We've basically written them off.
But today, I think people are going to be like, oh, unless next week or in 2 weeks they throw it.
Interesting if they keep going like this. Well, not to say that they're going to get seconds and thirds. And Aston still keeps doing it as bad as they are. They could potentially jump them in. They could. I thought it was not going to happen. But after today, they're not that, because they got what today? They got 18 and 15 points.
Yes.
43 points, which puts them at like 50 something or 60. It's not updated here on the website yet. But they're like 30-ish points away from Aston Martin, if that math is correct. So
all they have to do is finish ahead in the points ahead of Aston Martin. Both Aston Martins, both of them have to finish.
Well, they just have to average roughly 10 points over the next 3 weekends.
Yeah, and there's still a sprint to go.
Yeah,
so it's possible. And then Dirty Air. My Dirty Air, and we didn't talk a lot about them today. The FIA. I'm done with the FIA. It's just getting out of control at this point.
We did not check if like who are the stewards.
We didn't.
We didn't check who are the stewards, which other than after last week, we found out that they are not all the same or they're not even full-time employees. They get
No.
they get like $100, $200 a day or
Yeah.
whatever, 300 or whatever it is. And then they just do certain races. They get picked from like a hat, basically.
Yeah.
Which is not really, I mean,
Because then there's no precedent.
no, exactly. It's like,
That's all
I think,
opinion then.
yeah. And you don't know anybody, like it's not like, I don't know. They're not really vetted. They are, but it's like, they might have biases. They might have been former drivers. They might have allegiances to other places. But either way,
What was the one from last weekend was
the son
Lando's
of the founder.
uncle?
No, the son of the founder of McLaren.
Oh, right. Close enough to being an uncle.
Yeah, I guess so. My dirty air. I'm gonna give my dirty air back to Liam Lawson this weekend. Just his little bitchiness on track. And then he came into this weekend. He was asked a question by somebody, and his comment was, "I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to race." And I'm like, you just went through this. You were talked to by your team. Stop. Just stop.
By the boss. And he looked nervous in that video of like waiting for Horner to come talk to him.
Just stop. I get it. But you're not Max. You're not going to be this stone cold killer. You're not kidding. Yeah. Stop giving these answers or Alonso. Like, you haven't earned your stripes yet.
No, not. And I mean, you're talking a big game.
Yeah. I'm very quickly just becoming very annoyed with Liam Lawson, and I hope he doesn't have that seat next year, so I don't have to listen to him anymore. Give it to Colapinto. Yeah. Which, that's what I was going to say. For anybody that doesn't know, apparently, maybe, possibly, perhaps, there might be some news coming from about Franco Colapinto after the Vegas weekend, during the Vegas weekend, something like that. I know from a close personal friend. He's not. It was Crofty. He did make mention of it, and I think he thinks that like if he mentions it in FP1, it's not really going to go places because there's less viewership. But even he said something that maybe, and then he was very specific about saying Vegas. And Bernie and Karun were just like, "Who? Tell us! Like, tell us now! Just don't wait.
Give us the details."
He's like, "I'll text you later." I'm like, "Okay, you can just turn off your mics."
Yeah, pretty much.
So yeah, there is going to be that.
Yes.
So more not conspiracies, more rumors going through my head. Am I telling myself?
Yeah, I mean, the one that I saw, and maybe this is the one that you saw.
I've seen a few. I've seen a lot.
I've seen Carlos.
Yeah, I did see that one. Give Carlos a seat
to Red Bull.
Yeah.
So that Williams can keep.
I don't think that will happen because Carlos does have that provision in his contract that he can leave if there's a better offer somewhere else. So that would be effectively Williams giving up signs for free.
Yeah.
Going somewhere else, right? I think they'd rather have
unless Red Bull will pay for him.
I think, if Lawson keeps talking shit and everybody gets annoyed with it, I mean, it could be Colapinto in an RB.
Yeah.
A Racing Bulls.
The Racing Bulls. They're changing their name again.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
We will see.
If my buddy's right. But yeah, I think that's it. I think we're good. That's good. I think it's enough.
It's enough of us. It was a busy weekend. There was a lot to happen. A lot happened, so a lot to talk about. But yeah, you can find us on all the socials.
Oh, on all the socials. at
Fresh Set Podcast on Instagram, Twitter, or X, TikTok, YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts. Again, at Fresh Set Podcast on all of those. There's no race for the next 2 weeks, but we will be back getting down to the last couple of races here. But we will be back with some updates and some news and whatever. But yeah, we will see you guys next time.
Yep. Grab a fresh set.
Bye.